This is awesome. All right, thanks for joining. So, fulfillment. We missed a meeting last week, so we'll go through a few things. Just going through the agenda that put together. So the first item is from Luca, who's not here, but there's a discussion around communication. So, in particular, we are looking at a number of issues which we're trying to get in for this upcoming release, which gives us basically 24 hours or so, maybe a bit later, to get them in. Um, Dennis, you probably had the biggest response and the most thoughts to these. Do you want to respond to, I suppose, the issues that Luke has raised and what our steps are for trying to get these in?
Sure. I will say it's a bit awkward not having her here for discussing some of her thoughts and worries because I won't know how I respond if they'll actually uh, help to clarify or resolve anything. But I can just go point by point and then respond to what I think is, or I'll just give my opinion, and then we can further clarify that in next week's meeting or handle it async or whatever. But so one of her main concern is that it's been clear for quite a while now that the upgrade purchase flow has been the biggest priority outside of any implemented issues. So she's referring to a P1 issue, which is the confirmation page after upgrading, and that there hasn't been an update. She checked it on the 21st, which was Sunday, and hadn't been updated for 2 weeks. And so it's unclear on what the status of the issue is, even by looking at the MRs, neither of which are directly related. So with specific reference to this issue, which is, again, the confirmation page after upgrading, there isn't any update for 2 weeks because there wasn't any update to provide. So I've indicated in the issue that it was blocked. Granted, it was linking to a old issue because that issue for the upgrade flow had since been
Yeah.
broken out to back end and front end. So I've already updated that. But Jackie, I think you had a question about how we communicate blocked issues, but I use a blocked label. That way, any board, whichever board people are using, it'll show up. It's quite dark or quite loud visually that the issue is blocked. And I try to at least have some description clarifying why it's blocked or what it's blocked by, since we don't have any other way to articulate it through related issues, for example.
Yep.
So just to clarify on the upgrade flow, that has been the top priority for Vitaly. He's been working with Osvaldo on it. I pointed out, because I was also pinged whether or not this would be ready today, since this is kind of like I think we're kind of past the cutoff, but since this is the customer portal, it can be deployed. That issue, that merge request actually was pending back in an UX review, which had been since now. I think in the past hour, that review has been done. So other than that, I was just checking the front end to make sure that everything was good to go there. So that merge request is in good shape. There is a confirmation page that is not exactly to spec for this latest issue, but
Yep.
the flow is complete. So as far as what our biggest priority is, I think we're good to go as far as today. I'm a
Okay.
little concerned about like the little bit of
The issues
fire
raised with
drill, per
communication.
se, the
Yep.
urgency raised around this. I feel like we had a meeting to discuss the status of this and a lot of these points last Friday. So perhaps they weren't. We should have recorded the notes better, or we should have followed up on the discussed issues to kind of summarize what had been discussed. So I'm a little surprised by the urgency in some of these. So that's my response to the first one, and I'll pause just so we can have some discussion around that before I move down the list. Jackie, did I
Okay.
answer your question?
Yeah, one other thing came up that I wanted to ask you. You mentioned that it was pending a UX review for some time. Was it pending? Do you know how long?
Uh, Not so long. I think I pinged on. Sorry, I have my days poorly. Actually, no, sorry. So July 17th, Oswaldo pinged Tim to take a look at it. And then I pinged again on a couple of nuances with the front end a day after on the 18th. So it wasn't so long, I would say. I think everyone's dealing with a massive amount of pings to dos and so on. So
Yeah.
perhaps we just didn't prioritize this one as highly as we should have.
And you pinged him, but I don't think you pinged me, did you?
I did not.
So maybe we can talk about this, but maybe we can ping me as well. I think he was out. He was out for 1 or 2 days last week, and that might also be why. And I think with the UX team growing, you guys also have the opportunity to ping me and ping Emily. Will be starting next Monday, so we
Yeah.
can have better coverage. You know, if someone's out, there'll be somebody else.
Fair point. First, I didn't check his availability before I pinged, but yeah, that's something I can definitely do better at. Yeah, I know he was out Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, sounds like it wasn't an excessive amount of time, and the process was generally followed and worked. That's what it sounds like to me, at least.
Yeah. I think again, there was just definitely a big push for urgency to get this through, but I don't think anything was grossly out of proportion in terms of like review time or anything like that. I think it was just bad timing with when we wanted this to ship and when it was ready to review.
So Dennis and James, I suppose as well, for the issue around self-service upgrades for GitLab.com, where do you expect that will be for this release? I know what you said about the cutoff. We might be able to. We'll see how we go for time. But where do you expect we'll end up with this epic?
James, correct me if I'm wrong, but once this upgrade flow has been merged, we can just enable the feature flag in production, and it could be available immediately, right? Since this is kind of self-contained within the customer portal.
Correct. Yeah. We can if we deploy that today, we may say to master, and we get deployed, and we can enable it today.
Okay, so it sounds like we're on track. Is any concerns? Anything that we're missing?
Personally, I don't think so. We've got a couple of entry points to enable users to upgrade from other places that we want to insert. But as far as this main priority, I mean, I think we're good to go as far as today is concerned.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So moving on with Luca's issues. So I think the wider question around communication is what this group is meant for. We've only really had a chance to meet once, so I think this will improve as we go through this process. So there's commentary that the scheduled issue itself should be the single source of truth for status updates and discussions, not MRs. So ideally, how does everyone feel about that? And also, Dennis, from your experience with other teams, the conversation goes between issues and MRs. Where do we, and also stand-ups as well, where do we find the single source of truth?
I think it's definitely in the issues. I would love to ask if, this issue Luca is referencing to is an example of this, but I mean, I would agree that issue should be the single source of truth. I think merge requests really just give the play-by-play, so to say, of the actual work being done. But as far as meaningful updates we want to make, they should be happening in the issues.
Okay, so we're agreed on that as a path forward. There may be examples where that's not happening. We might need to tighten up, but I can't see any from what I've seen. James, that's your understanding as well, that the issue is a single source of truth?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think that's what happens in other teams as well. I think the merge requests are just a place for discussion for the engineers, like just for coding stuff and so on.
Yeah, code quality.
Exactly. Yeah, something. Yeah, anything related to coding, while the update should be in the issue itself.
Yep. Okay. And then Luca's raised a general statement that design UX product need to be checking to make sure UX questions are not holding up MRs. Jackie, you've agreed. Anything you want to add to your comment there, Jackie?
No. I just if there are examples where that's not happening, definitely I'd like to hear about those so I understand better. I think also with me joining and then with Emily joining next week, we can talk about if someone's out, how do we communicate coverage and stuff like that so that we can respond quickly.
Great. I see you put a topic at the end that we can chat about the new designers, because that's exciting news as well.
Yeah.
All right. So customer license. The next one from Luca is to get customer license apps on the same schedule as CEE for deployments. I mean, we've just started moving to the CD workflow for GitLab.com, and I'm not sure how far away that is for the customer license apps or what we need to do there. We don't have any work scheduled to prioritize to make that happen. I mean, is that correct, James?
So at the moment, I think the main difference between GitLab.com and the customer portal is that in GitLab.com we have a feature freeze on around the 18th, and that's not even a fixed date right now, because I think they want to push to have more continuous deployment, which means
Yes.
that date may change. While in the customer portal we can release things up until the 22nd. I think the big thing here, the big issue might be that they are not aligned. So my suggestion would be to try to close things for a milestone on the same date, perhaps, because that helps a bit with planning as well. Because otherwise, it means that we have to do sort of two plannings. We have a planning from the 18th up until the 18th, and then a planning up to the 22nd, because in the customer portal we can plan that further for the milestone. So my suggestion would be to align both, and it also helps with things like weights and so on, because then it's much easier to calculate those and to sum them up as well, and so they make sense.
Okay. So with anything that's missing, or I suppose how do we get that to? So, I mean, so it sounds like we've got the right workflow in place. What more do you see that needs to happen, James, to fulfill Luca's requirement there?
So could we clarify if that's a requirement?
Yeah.
Though? I mean, the motivation seems to be that. So for those that are on the recording but not reviewing the agenda, the concern is that because we don't have this kind of push for a code freeze for around the 18th, that there's less of a sense of, it doesn't mean that we have a less of sense of an urgency. So it doesn't sound like she's saying that we're treating P1s or P2s in the customer portal differently than P1 or P2 and CE or EE. So it's kind of hard to figure out if there's just something to solve here, or if this is just a thought being voiced, or if there's something we're doing wrong. I was having some confusion around this.
This might be one that we need to wait till next week, or perhaps discuss async to get some more clarification around it. I know that there is some confusion around even deployments are on CE with the change to CD. So, and I'm not aware that we've scheduled or prioritized any work that we might need to do to get us that same sense, nor am I across any particular reasons why we need to. so there's a few unknowns there. Let's get some more data first on that one.
Cool.
Stripe, Jamie Kerry is writing up a business proposal, technical requirements for Stripe. Separately, there's a pricing discussion. Nothing we need to know or do at this stage. It's just that the process is moving onwards. Decision on priority and severity labels. So there's an issue which Luca has commented on. I saw an update come through recently using collapsible board lists. Let's cover that one async. I think, James, you've already commented. Dennis, I'm not sure if you've had a chance yet either.
No, not yet. I've been meaning to.
Take the time to have a look at that separately. Let's take that one off sync. Async, but we still need to manage that.
Definitely.
Let me see. So next one around labels. Are we going to use the UX ready label or the workflow ready for development label? James, you made a good comment that we need it for backend stuff. Jackie, what's your preference?
So I know that the UX team, along with product, was going to propose some new labels to solve the sort of confusion of UX ready and a few other things. So I don't have a strong preference right now. I prefer not to change things too much if we know things might change again soon.
I agree, and my preference is as much as possible to stick with what the other teams are doing as well. So maybe let's have that separate process go through. Do you know if there's an issue that you can link through in this agenda?
No, there's not, because there was a UX issue about it, but then Christy talked to Scott and they decided that they wanted to work together a little bit more on it.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where that ended up.
Sure. No problems. And then regarding planning, by the day tomorrow, Luke will have an idea of what 12.2 will look like. How did we go overall, James, with Dennis with 12.1? Is there much that will bleed over into 12.2?
Technically, yes. So what I mean by that is like there's a couple of issues to add entry points to the upgrade flow. Of course, those are going to be spilling over because the upgrade flow is just now being finalized. There were a couple of issues with purchasing more minutes. So we're changing the component type for the purchasing CI minutes notifications that we show users. And there was a bit of confusion on where the link should go because the issue's descriptions did not actually define where the link should go.
Got it.
So there's some thinking behind whether that's related to the upgrade flow or if we're just linking to where the user going to the customer portal would just click purchase more minutes. So we had talked about that last Friday, and I've had a comment to clarify where that should go, but I have not yet received a confirmation on that. But all that to say is these were all kind of assumed to be blocked by the upgrade flow, which is why, there's some work we could prepare ahead of time, sure, which is what we're doing with the notifications, changing to alerts. But yeah, I think as far as I understand, those are the only ones spilling into 12.2. So it's kind of just, all of these other, it was blocked by a primary P1 for this release. So
okay, James, from your side.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of that will sleep, and I think one of them was because of the other unplanned issues. So really had to take on that one and stop working on the download the license from the portal one, which will sleep. Then I think there was another.
That particular issue seems to be a lot bigger than we'd originally anticipated. So this is the one to block non-allowed countries to purchase from GitLab.
Yeah, although that's in good shape now, and I think it should be ready soon. So one question that I need to ask Luca is that should Ruben continue working on the one that was previously working on, or switch to a P1 issue? Yeah.
All right, good. I've put in just a comment for people to have a look at, how other teams are experimenting with different ways of doing sub-issues, epics issues. I think most of our previous conversation that we've had through the issues has worked this out, but I always like to surface what other teams are doing just in case we get any ideas. So I've linked to an issue, just have a look in your own time and see if there's anything from there that we can learn from. And Jackie, 2 new designers.
Yeah. So Emily will start Monday, and she'll be focused on fulfillment. So and then the Monday after, Kevin Kamoli starts. He'll be on growth, but I think that there's a good amount of overlap. I do want to work with James and Ruben to kind of figure out how we make it easier to get the customer portal installed. I've been working with Ruben quite a number of hours over the last 2 weeks, and I'm still not comfortable just figuring out how to get everything running, get all the services running on my machine, check out a feature flag, and so on. And the documentation is a level above someone like me who's like, I learned Unix 20 years ago and I don't remember anything. So we're going to have more and more designers like that. And I'm happy to help with the documentation and writing stuff, but I need someone who's, who I can partner with technically, who can help me understand, well, why are we doing these steps and what is it? What is it for?
There was a technical writer that recently started or is about to start looking at the growth team. Did I?
Is it Evan or is it somebody else for growth?
I think it was Evan.
Okay. So I can talk to Evan about it. I know Mike Lewis, manager of the technical writers. He does prefer to keep the technical writers working on things that are more kind of customer facing, and then the internal stuff But he's also very flexible, so I can talk to him about helping us with that. But what I wanted to know, James, is I was looking at the issue that you had linked to me, the one that you said was potentially a duplicate of the issue I created, 474.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like that one's more focused on just doing some improvements to streamline the process to kind of make it easier for people, but not the documentation. Is that
correct? But I think with that one in place, once we have something like a development kit, like we have in GitLab.com, then the documentation will be much smaller, especially for UX, on people who don't need to do any change any techy things inside. So I think if we can do that, then that will help a lot, because basically it's basically just automating most of the configuration.
right? So that those steps go away since they're hidden and automated.
Exactly.
That would be great. Do you know how long, what your timeline is for working on that?
I don't know. It's been one of my priorities, but then I have other ones. So
Yeah.
I don't know. The other thing that is blocking us as well is the staging deployment, and that's another one of my top priorities. But I'm hoping I can do it. And now that we have new UX people joining us, I'm hoping I can take a look soon, or at least for now, just improve a little bit more the documentation, which is, I'm aware that it's continuously being improved, because backend engineers have been submitting a number of merge requests to improve the README and put more steps and so. But I know that might not be enough, and still, it's a bit tricky to install and working.
I noticed that. I noticed there were some merge requests on the README file, some recent ones. So what I was thinking of doing is starting with the README file that's there, but drafting some of my own. The way I would like it to be is, let's explain it so a 7-year-old can do it. And that's what I need. So what I was going to do was, in my own words, I was going to kind of update the documentation, but I know some of it's going to be wrong because I don't know what I'm talking about. So what I was hoping is I'll just create a new merge request, and James, you or Evan or whoever can help make it accurate.
Yeah, I'm happy to take a look, definitely. If you send me something, I'm happy to take a look, and definitely.
Okay.
I'll
try to do that in the next couple of days, so that while we're waiting for the automation improvements, we have some improved documentation as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, cool.
Jackie, do you have an idea yet, and maybe probably Luke is a better person to ask a question on what issues the new designers are going to tackle? And also, will Tim continue primarily focusing on fulfillment, or are we going to be able to use him more on the growth experiment building side?
Well, Emily is going to be on fulfillment. Kevin will be focused on growth. Mm-hmm. And we're also looking for a senior product designer to start hopefully sometime in September. But we don't have a lot of people in the pipeline yet. But we're looking to fill that, and that person would also be solely focused on growth. So we'll have a total of 2 designers on growth and 2 on fulfillment, which I think would include telemetry.
At this stage, I'm not sure what. I don't know how much design necessarily or UX telemetry itself may need, but I don't know. Okay, good. No, that's great news. On the hiring front, is there any new news, James? I mean, I mentioned I think a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned in the Slack channel that we have a front-end engineering manager starting in a month or so, I think. And James, you've had some success on the back end, but that's
Corina is still to be confirmed the exact date, but most likely Corina is joining us as a backend engineer on the 16th of October.
Okay.
Bartek, Chris should be starting on 5th of August, last I checked. I know that date's been moving around.
No, you're right, 5th of August. That was what I was, good. That's relatively soon, actually.
Just to clarify, 2 weeks to a month. Cool. And then also I just followed up with Ragnar, who's one of our hot candidates right now in terms of trying to close for the
Yes.
third hire for fulfillment. So I will be, I'll be in touch with you, Bartek, to figure out so we can send out the offer. I think
Great.
we're good to go. Any more justification or clarifications needed on that side. So
Perfect. So you will just work on the justification section?
yeah, I need to sync up with you as well, but we can follow up on that maybe tomorrow when you had some rest.
I'm happy to do a
so-
quick call after this if that, just to move things forward.
Sure. Okay, let's do that. And then yeah, we'll get the offer out then. I can handle the rest.
All right. Anything else? So but maybe because these meetings are relatively new to us and there's so many things that we need to cover, but we're just scraping in terms of the 30 minutes. I don't know if we need to have smaller agendas or longer meetings, or if it will just work itself out over time. But is there anything else that anyone wanted to add at this stage?
I think we may just have had a backlog since we missed last week, so I would say just give it a whirl for a couple cycles longer and see if we need to
Excellent.
adjust.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording.